the servers are just going to keep setting up. They have different drinks that they're giving out. One thing we learned over the years putting this presentation together is this group usually preferred lemonade instead of iced tea. Is that correct? Do most of you prefer lemonade over iced tea? Yes, okay. So I see that they have that, and that's what they're putting out. But we have tons of information to cover today, so I think I am going to go ahead and get started. And my name is Cindy Kenkel. I have done this presentation for 3 or 4 years now. I teach in the business department. You are actually my favorite group to present to, even though it is such a large group. Now, your competition is high school students, so I don't know if that's saying a lot about you or not, but you always have lots of questions, and I'm going to go through some preliminary material, and then, of course, they start bringing out the meal, and I will walk around while you are eating to see that you are indeed following the things I'm teaching you. So those of you with your back to me now, go ahead and turn your chairs around so you can see a screen. More important really that you see the screen probably than that you see me. So thank you for waiting patiently to do that. Were you wondering how that was going to work, as you were just going to have your back to me the entire time? That probably would not have worked very well. So this would be a part of an overall presentation on etiquette that I would do for businesses, different groups, and because you guys have so many questions when I go around, that's why you really are my favorite. Sometimes I bring tickets to issue to you, and if you are indeed violating one of the rules I just taught, I issue a ticket to you. I don't think I remembered to bring those this time. We might have to run over to my office and get them in between, or just issue something else. I know right where they are, so once they start talking, we might run over and do that. So hold questions until we get to that point. I have done this presentation for years. My friends get a real kick out of the fact that I do this presentation, because at home I probably do 1/10 of the rules that I'm teaching you about today. And one of the things that you have to do is just practice enough to where when you are in the situation, you're comfortable and confident and can do it. But do I expect you're going to do all of this every time you eat from now on? Of course not. One of the things, and this is, I call it an Oprah aha moment, is it just never occurred to me before that these events or these business functions were about the event and getting to know people instead of the food. I mean, that would be the main thing. So how many of you came today and the main element you're thinking of is lunch and the food? I mean, a few of you. So really, that's like a part of it. I get that, I understand that, but even a mindset going into it, you have to realize that it really isn't the food, it's the socialization. So you're going to be in this situation when you're looking for a job, you're looking for an internship, you're looking for a customer, you want to impress somebody, and so that's the main element, is socialization. So as easy as this sounds, if you are a person with a fairly large appetite, I would eat something before you go so that you're not just starving. A lot of times when we get to the ordering element of the presentation, now you don't get an order today, we ordered for you. The groups worked really hard to try and find some dishes that you guys want and like. You paid for this meal. In addition to the knowledge, we want to give you good food as well. But just keeping in mind, like, that's the secondary. The food is the secondary. When alcohol's involved, we want to be even more careful than that. But a lot of times when we talk about ordering, people will ask me, well, can I order another meal if I'm still hungry? And no, you can't do that. And so if you do have a big appetite, eat something before you go. Or if you know there's going to be an hour of happy hour socialization before the food even comes out. So hopefully you guys had breakfast and you're not starving today, because there's about a 30-minute lecture before we even get going. My sound seems weird when I turn one way and the other. Yeah? No? Just to me, maybe then. The other part of, and most of what I'm going to focus on really is the nitty-gritty meal. I mean, how do you hold the fork? What fork do you pick up first? Where does your napkin go? That is the nitty-gritty of most of what I am going to talk about today. But because I just said the main goal is the socialization, I wanted to really point out how important it is for you to be a good conversationalist. And I love this quote, which I love the fact that people are still reading Dale Carnegie, who wrote years and years and years ago. And he talks about the importance of the 4 magic words and how about you. And so what he says, and you can read it from the screen too, you can make more friends in 2 months becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get people interested in you. So even if they are interviewing you, they will go away from the exchange wanting to know that you genuinely wanted to know about them too. And so just as important as them asking questions of you is also you showing interest. How did you get in this role? You know, what things are important to you? So, but really most of this is going to be the nitty-gritty. Very slow moving clicker for whatever reason. So one thing, just a little kind of housekeeping thing we need to do is at each table, once the meal starts, I'm going to need somebody that is your host or hostess. Usually that person pays the bill. We're not going to ask you to do that today. But how we usually select this is a little game that we call the Nose Goes in the United States. Have you guys, do you know this game? Have you caught on yet about how this works? The last person to put their finger on their nose is the host or hostess of the table. So whoever is the last person at your table to do that. Okay, so did you all end up with somebody? Okay, so that's a good little trick to know. So sometimes it's like who has to take out the trash or any other activity. Sometimes people want to do them, sometimes people don't. But you just quietly put your finger up to your nose, and it takes some people longer than others to figure out that's what you're doing. So now you know the tradition of the nose goes. So you have somebody at your table later that is going to play just a little bit more of an important role. The other thing is, a rule is, if it's not a part of the meal, it shouldn't be on the table. So at this point in time, if you happen to have anything on the table that is not a part of the meal, and I'm assuming most of you aren't eating your phones. They're very expensive. That would be not something necessarily great to do. I will let you pull them out a little bit later, and you guys can take lots of pictures and things. But that's one of the first things when you would go to a business function. Don't just turn your phone on vibrate. Turn it off. Because even when you feel that vibration, I don't know if anybody has enough self-discipline not to kind of look down at it. And so unless just you're the most important in the world and you have a very important phone call coming, you totally unplug. And a lot of millennials can't do that. So the fact that you can will show that you have a little bit more discipline than other people do. So when you are seated and ready for the meal, I'm going to ask that you really kind of work on your posture. We know that people are going to make a decision about you at a job interview or a meeting probably within the first 30 seconds, which isn't that frustrating when you're going to spend an hour and a half with them, but they're going to make that judgment. And one of the biggest elements is posture. And so if you're kind of all slumped over the table, then they definitely are not going to think that you have enough confidence. So once the meal starts going, you're going to kind of sit straight up. And you can use the back of the chair some. I feel like this is a little strict, but you don't want all your weight on the back of the chair. So go ahead and kind of practice to where you're going to be, and then you're going to be about 3 to 5 inches from the table. Those of you that have turned your chair, you don't have to do anything special, but the rest of you, maybe you're too close or you're too far away. I used to call these on the other slides, I would call them momisms, because I hope that most of you kind of know some of these things by now, but not everybody does. When we start eating, please bring the food to your mouth instead of your mouth to the food. So this all has to do with the posture, and you're not going to want to be all hunched over your meal the entire time. I have a habit, this is why I say my friends get a kick out of me teaching this. Sometimes if I see something on somebody else in my family's plate that looks really good, I just take it. Sometimes I ask, sometimes I don't. French fries, they just seem like they should be a common thing that we are all sharing, so I will just grab them. So my son especially has a very bad habit of kind of putting his arm around his plate in the area of where I would be sitting. And maybe if you're from a big family, you have adopted that too, kind of like, I don't want anybody taking my stuff. So you're not going to do that at a business function. What you do at home on your own is totally up to you. I don't know if people take your food or not. If they do, protect it by all means. But if you're at a business function and somebody's interviewing you, takes a French fry off of your plate, I'm not sure you want to work there, but they may be testing you to see how you would deal with that. If somebody happens to tell you you have something in your teeth, go to the bathroom to get that out of there. If they kind of gesture, you've got something, up here you need to wipe off with a napkin, that's one thing. But if they literally kind of like pointing to your tooth, don't use them as a mirror. This one, which one are we looking at? This is a true story. I once had a friend pull a piece of her hair out and use it as dental floss at the table. Is that not just one of the grossest things you've ever heard or thought of? So, and the weird part was she used to teach this class as an adjunct, so just part-time. She used to teach this class, but she didn't even think it was weird. So that's weird. Don't do that. I would not want you to do that. And then if you are a person who talks a lot with your hands, be sure that your silverware isn't up, kind of accentuating that. It can, especially if you have a knife in your hand, people can be a little surprised by that. So this is where the host or hostess would come into play, and who's going to order first, and that is almost always up to the server. And still, even though we would say, oh, it's a business function, gender shouldn't have anything to do with it, they're normally going to look at a female at the table, if there is one, to take their order first. The host or hostess will actually have their order taken last. Now, you're sitting there thinking, what price? What should I order? Should I order the most expensive thing? You already know the answer to that. Should you order the most expensive thing on the menu? No. Should you order the least expensive thing? No, you're going to order something mid-price. There's some things that are easier to eat than others. You don't want to have a big wide open sandwich. You probably don't want pasta unless you are a real expert with that. But you might ask the host or hostess for suggestions. Do you have a suggestion with this? Something that you would think. You don't want to go into a whole dialogue about, I'm on this diet right now, or that diet, or I'm gluten-free, like no one cares. Nobody wants to know any of those kinds of things. The reason is kind of obvious why you don't get the top. You don't want to be prima donna or some kind of king or queen that's have to order the best. But the reason you wouldn't want to order the least expensive as well is somehow someone might think, geez, they don't have enough confidence in themselves, or they don't think they are worth this. And so maybe it's that you're a very frugal person with your own money and you plan to be with their money as well. And if that's the case, I'd let that come out somewhere in the discussion. But just go ahead and stick with the mid-price element. If you want to pay the bill, if you are the host or the hostess and you are wanting to pay the bill, what you will need to do is be sure that the server knows that going in, so that it gets to the end and it isn't this big, huge fight for who's going to pay this bill or who isn't going to pay the bill. If someone pays for you that you didn't expect, you invited them, maybe you thought you were either going to pay half and half or you were going to pay for their meal. Maybe you invited somebody for an informational interview that's older than you and much more established than you, and even though you invited, they're going to insist on paying. You can go ahead and let them pay, thank them profusely, and then send them a handwritten thank you card with that. But if you want to be the person to pay ahead of time, let them have your credit card or tell them, be sure that they slip it to you. How do you signal to the server that you are ready to order? This is so crazy. I did not know this until the last couple years when I was, every semester when I put this stuff together, I kind of looked for new information. How do you signal that you're ready for them to come take your order? Do you guys have an answer here? What'd you say? Anybody? I hear you talking, but I can't hear for sure. Who said you raise your hand up? No. What do? Close the menu. Yes, close the menu. Very often I left the menu open my memory isn't the greatest, and I'm like, I need to be able to point to what I wanted to have. I forgot where it was going to be. So many times I think I left my menu open waiting for that, when indeed what you need to do is close your menu. They will keep coming over and asking if it's been a long time and your menu is open, but once you have decided, and then go ahead and remember what the name of the item was so you don't have to open it again. That will show the person that you were with that they can remember something for 2 seconds, which is better than what I can do at this point in time. As far as alcohol goes, and I don't have the slide when I talk to the high school students, but a lot of times there will be alcohol involved, either before the meal, at the meal, or after the meal. I like you to limit it to 2. These are my suggestions. They're mixed. They're all over the table. Some people say absolutely none. Some say whatever goes. I think I'm probably right in the middle somewhere. So if you don't normally drink alcohol, of course don't drink. This would not be a good time to start testing and see what your limits are. Just order something else, for heaven's sakes. If you don't drink very often, like I don't drink very often, 2 drinks on an empty stomach for me, I'm not that smart. I'm tipsy. I'm fun. Like they would probably enjoy being with me, but I'm not going to be a very good conversationalist. So you just have to know your limits on that. It is best, especially for women, not to be drinking don't drink out of a can for sure, but even a bottle, I would transfer it to a glass. You just can look a little bit more professional when you are doing that. But there's no reason to apologize if you don't drink alcohol or say it's my religion or it's just that. Just order something else. And so those are just kind of general rules of thumb. I know Cerner definitely has a night before the interviews that they offer people alcohol. And if you don't think you're being judged and graded at that time, you are crazy, because you are. And so you want to be making connections with other people, but you still want to be disciplined, and you have to get up the next morning and go. Same thing with like what would you order? I wouldn't order the top shelf alcohol. I wouldn't, order peach schnapps or like a bottom of the level either, but I wouldn't order the top. Sorry, these are so slow. I love this waiter rule, and it probably relates back to what I talked about at the beginning, but it says, you can hardly get CEOs to agree on anything, but this is the one thing that they would agree on. How you treat the server or the waiter is a very good indication of how you are going to treat other people. So treat them with the utmost kindness. If your food is late getting out, it's very rarely the server's problem that has happened. And so if you are raising your hand like what's wrong with them, you're complaining about things, I definitely am not going to hire you for a position. So you would be amazed at how much it says about you. I know, even I try and do a good job at this, but sometimes like if I leave a customer service line and someone says to me like, have a nice day, I'm like, thank you. And my daughter always says, oh my God, why didn't you say have a nice day back? Or better yet, why didn't you say thank you, have a nice day to them first? And so these are just kind of everyday things to get into the habit of. I always love every once in a while, and on Facebook it was a good story this morning about a couple that had pretty bad service at a really nice restaurant that they had gone to, but they went ahead and they still left a really nice tip. They both had been servers themselves. They quickly recognized that those people were taking care of about twice the number of tables that they probably should be taking care of if they were fully staffed and had enough people, and that would be the way to react to that person. My guess, we'll ask Cody when she comes out here today, but they have very limited staff today, and so they're doing double duty too. How many of you are servers and work here and work in the union sometimes anyway? Any of you guys? Okay. So are they do they have less people than they normally would working today? So let's, be extra kind to them because of that. No, you technology people have a suggestion as to better batteries. Okay. When you start eating, like at a table today, you're not going to start to eat until everybody at your table has been served. So if you're at kind of a large function, like maybe a wedding or something, you have a big long table, then you can start to eat as soon as everybody around you has their food served, like on both sides of you. Even if you go to a buffet, if you run through it and you're the first one back, you need to wait for a couple other people to get back for you to start eating. Now, if you've ordered at a restaurant, like today, you know, your food's all gonna kind of come right out. Let's say one person at the table doesn't have theirs. They have to go back and restock and refill. That person can say to the rest of the group, go ahead and wait, please don't wait on me. So the host or hostess can do that as well. So if you ordered some crazy thing and it's gonna take a long time or longer to cook and it's not coming out, then it's up to you to give everybody else permissions. You know, I don't want your food to get cold. If I miss something on here that you see that's a question, let me know. I don't know if that slide's very easy to see or not. Sometimes you're closer together than what you are now, but the easiest way to remember which are your drinks and which are somebody else's is drink starts with a DR. Drinks are always going to be on the right. So it's pretty easy to be in a tight-fitting place and actually reach to the left instead of the right to get somebody's. If you have done that and accidentally taken a sip out of somebody else's drink, then just ask the server for another one. You don't need to do a big trade with people and start everybody trading everybody else for a drink that nobody has touched. But so, and then on the left-hand side, which left has 4 letters, so does the word food or roll, and so that's always going to be on that side. So I realize today the tables are wide enough that that's not an issue. Has anybody ever taken the wrong drink? Yeah. Or if you did, maybe you didn't even know. Is the technology guy still here with another battery maybe? I don't think the rule about silverware really is that hard. People seem to think it's hard, but I don't really seem to think that it's hard. The rule of silverware is outside in. So you're always going to use something that's on the outside first. Now, if you had silverware at the top above your plate or where that napkin is, what would that mean you're having today? If there was. If you look at the picture, you can see there's a spoon and a fork. What would that mean? Dessert. Yeah. We are having dessert. It's just something that's going to come with its own silverware probably. Okay. But so the salad fork, it is the shorter one, but you don't have to remember that. It's going to be outside in. Now, I think today we don't have salads. And so that's why you're not going to have to worry that much about it. The other big key is once you have used that utensil, it cannot touch the table. It has to rest instead on a plate, or it can be your roll plate, or it can be your regular plate. It can be for your saucer and cup. But once you have used it, so say you butter something or put some kind of sauce on something or cut something, it can't go back down on the table after that. Napkins they're our best friend. They should be. We'll go ahead and put your napkins in place now. So grab what your napkin is. You will put it, the crease will go in your waist, and you don't open it all the way. You just open it halfway. So you guys can go ahead and do that. Grab your nice napkins that they have for you. Kind of unwrap them. And you don't have to turn around yet because we're still talking, but just go ahead and get it so that I know that you know where it's going to go. And the crease, so the larger part goes on top. The skinny part of the triangle goes in your lap. So you don't unfold it all the way. You don't tuck it in. Oddly enough, you all look like you're in diapers right now, so I'm not going to, I don't know why. I'm not going to. I've never noticed that or seen that happen, but all of a sudden, for some reason, it's like you're all in diapers now. So when you're turned around towards the table, you won't be. Yeah, you can put them back on the table. Yeah, you can set it back on the table for just a minute if you want to. If you leave and you get up and you're going to come back, your napkin has 2 options. It can rest on the right side of your tray or it can rest in your chair. And I always remember that with, I will be right back. And so If you are done with your meal, it will go on the left-hand side. And in that case, if you have gotten up and you've gone to the restroom and you accidentally put the napkin on the left-hand side and a server comes by and takes your food, that was your problem. That was your issue. You're the one that had the napkin there. So usually early in the meal, they would wait till you got back and ask you. But so right side, I'll be right back. Left side, nothing's left. Although I would like you to leave something. I would like you to leave a little bit on your plate to show that you have some discipline. I think I talk about that later more. So we're going to use and talk about using the American style today instead of the continental style. That's not the slide I want. Where is the slide I want? Well, we'll get to the silverware in a minute, I guess. It is all about the pace. You know, there's that song, All About the Bass, All About the Bass. It is all about the pace. So take small bites, small enough that if somebody asks you a question, you'll be able to fairly quickly talk. You kind of put your hand up like, oh, sorry, I just took a bite. But how many of you eat pretty fast? Like you know that you're usually the first person done in a group. Okay, so you've really got to slow yourselves down. And likewise, if you're the person that's always pulling up the rear, you might eat a little bit quicker. And I will kind of go around today and talk about that. That would be the one thing I would practice fairly frequently, because that's very hard. I'm a very fast eater. It's very often I'm done. I have hardly anything on my plate, and then I'm just sitting there. Like, what do I do then? I look like an idiot. So really, it is about the pace and taking small bites and putting your things down in between. I guess right there I said don't chew with your mouth open. Maybe you knew that anyway. Passing, what do they have something that they're going to pass today? I saw Cody out here and then she just snuck in. Do they have something that they pass around today? Do you know? With their meal? Where's Joni? Okay. Okay. Well, salt and pepper are a couple and they should stay together. And so even if somebody just asks for the salt, you pass them both the salt and pepper. And if somebody asks for it, you would pass it directly to them. Say you're just the person at the table starting it, then you're going to still go ahead and everything always is going to be passed to the right. But let's pretend like today you have something like rolls or some kind of a bread that you're going to pass around to people. When it's in that tray, when it's in that basket, you offer the person on the left, they take some, you do not take any. You pass yourself up. You go all the way, then the next person takes them. It gets back to you, and hopefully there's still something there. I mean, that is the intention. At one very fancy meal that it wasn't there, and the person I was making do that was very hesitant in the beginning, like, I don't think this. Do you remember that, Joni, with DeAndre? He was just very hesitant to do that, and he came back, and indeed there wasn't a roll. We asked for more. But the reason you don't take it yourself is precisely that. You're the person who has started it. If somebody doesn't get something, you want it to be you. And sometimes there's choices, like different kinds of rolls or different pieces of meat. And as the person initiating that, you don't want to be the person that takes the best one or the largest one. Salt and pepper or other commodities that are all the same, you don't need to be choosy with. So when the salt and pepper comes to you and it's your turn, you can go ahead and take it. But always pass to the right. No chewing of ice. I think this is a new thing that I didn't know I had to tell people. I really thought this was a common sense one. That same meal where somebody didn't end up with a roll, the person next to me kept chewing their ice. They seem to think we couldn't hear. I know it's a weird sound when you have you're chewing your ice, but we could hear. And I kept giving him a very evil eye, and he just kept saying, I can't not do it. Like it was this weird compulsion. So I guess he should order things without ice in them. So later, once we get the meal going, at one point in time, I'm going to have one person at the table just start to kind of chew their ice, and we'll see if we can isolate who it is. We'll have to do like an eyes closed type thing. Scraping your plate, your ice cream bowl. My husband does that. It drives me crazy. Like, if you really need more ice cream, please go get more. Do not be just like scraping. Slurping your noodles or soup, at least in the United States, you're not to do that. Some cultures you can, not here. So eating quietly, that's the thing. closed mouth. If you have to burp, put your napkin and say, excuse me, and go ahead and do what you have to do. If you have the hiccups for a long time, then you would want to leave the table if they start to be distracting. So quietly, quietly, quietly. Remember that picture with the quietly. The next thing is, please don't eat like a toddler. And this is kind of a personal preference of mine, and I'm actually having a hard time finding a lot of literature about it, but I'm realizing this really is a thing. How would you eat that? Talk amongst your table for just a minute or so, and I want to kind of get an idea. How many of you would start with one, and which one would it be? Would you eat a bite of each? Just talk at your table for a minute or so, and I want to see how would you eat that meal. Assume that it's 3 things you like and 1 thing you don't. So small discussion. How are you going to do that? Okay, I'm going to pull you together. Maybe that's something you can talk about more during the meal. But what I am wanting the answer to be is that you're going to eat some of each throughout. You're not going to have this like rotational plan where you're circling your, this. But what I don't want you to do is, oh, the oranges are my favorite, I'm starting with them. Or I hate the peas, I must just get them out of the way first. And so, toddlers and people not liking their food touching. How many of you don't like your food to touch? Just a few. Okay, good. See, I think this is an American problem, and there's people who are like, oh, I can't even think of it touching inside my stomach. Well, it does, and so I don't know. Maybe we need to get over that. But I think this summed it up pretty well, that somebody who can intermix what they're eating is going to be the person that I want to hire and have higher level of responsibility versus the person who can only think of one food item at a time. What I want you to talk about later, and then I'll be interested in coming around and hearing, is some people start with their favorite thing. Other people save their favorite for the end of the meal, if they eat just individually. So if you would have been the person who ate just one, then one, then one, how many of you would have started with your favorite item? Okay, and then how many would have closed with your favorite item? So that seems to be more kind of common. And to me, if I was going to eat individually, that would be more like leading up to dessert. But since I am not in a high chair anymore, I can eat a bite of meat, and then I can eat a bite of potatoes, and then I can eat a bite of something else. So I think it's one of those things that really could make somebody look very unsophisticated. Do you agree with me, Nancy?
My husband eats one food at a time, so I'll be glad to tell him to stop.
Okay. Well, and the problem is I'm not finding a lot of research on it, but all of a sudden all the kids say they do it. They all relate. They all eat one item at a time. So I think it's something we're going to have to start at an earlier stage. And just like eating too fast or too slow, I think that's something you would have to practice because your mindset would just be that that is how you do it. When you would have something that would require sugar, and maybe some of you even would put sugar in your lemonade, although I'm assuming it's pretty sweet already, you really want to limit it to 1 for like iced tea, 2 packets. You don't even tear the packet all the way open. You tear it 2/3 of the way open so you have less trash to deal with, and then you're going to put your trash on like one of your little plates. And some of you guys are like shaking your heads like, did you know that already, or it makes sense? Makes sense, yeah, okay. And those are the little things. No one's going to go, they just tore their sugar packet, therefore I will not be hiring them. But it's an overall level of sophistication that you'll have. And then when you're stirring, please don't stir very loud either. That could go with the eating quietly slide. Again, don't chew ice. It's hard on your teeth, it's hard on just everything. Where's the ice chewers so I can know to look out for you? We have some, you're afraid to say it? Right over there, okay. Okay, if you have a friend that does that a lot, this might be an intervention that's needed. So this might be something that you have to do at home and work on. With bread or rolls, you actually don't cut them. You tear off one bite at a time and butter it or hummus or whatever you're going to put on it. The exception is garlic bread. You can cut that. And the exception as far as being able to put all the butter on it at once is a hot roll because it would melt. Otherwise, that's one of the things that's going to slow you down and something that's going to make you look like you know the rules. Again, pass yourself up when you're passing the rolls or something else until it comes back to you. I'm just going to have to move down there in a minute. Outside in. Okay, this was the holding part. And then once we get done with this, we'll let them start. Actually, do you guys want to start bringing things out? You could start bringing things out while I'm finishing up this last part. That would be fine. Why don't you do that? Okay, so you're going to hold the fork, and please play along with me, even if you're used to doing this, but you're going to hold the fork like you would hold a pencil. So go ahead and pick up your fork. So your fork will be on, be sure you pick up your fork. What do you got going there? Do they have these opposite? Okay. Yeah, I don't think they have them opposite. I just think you're where your chairs are. So you're gonna, can you see the pictures, how it's being held like a pencil? But I want you to hold it up higher. That has it down a little bit too low. Okay. So this is how I don't want you to hold it, like it's a bat or a baseball. So if any of you do that, stopping doing just that will make you look better. My son's last girlfriend, that is exactly how she held hers the whole time, and I really wanted to tell her. So you guys, are you good? Do you have that? You have it like a pencil? Okay, and yours is a little high now. There's something kind of in between. So hold up your forks. Let's see. Let's do some critiquing. So not way down at the bottom, kind of in the middle there. Yeah. And so I apologize if that's a demeaning thing, but now when you're going to cut, you have to switch. And so go ahead now and pretend like you would be cutting something. And so I'm just talking to right-handers. If you're left-handed, you got to switch everything around on your own. I'm just talking to right-handers now. So right-handers will put the fork in their left hand and the knife in their right hand. And that is how you will use it to cut. And then you switch back when you're ready to eat. What would continental style do instead? Does anybody know? What would the European style do instead of switching back then? They don't switch back. They just eat like that. So that would be how you would cut it. Good heavens. Okay. Are we having soup? No? No? Okay. Okay, so if you have soup, the main thing is that the spoon goes away from you instead of towards you. And where you would put the spoon afterwards, you would put it like to the side here. You don't put it back into the bowl if you're not taking a bite and you're just leaving it. But the main thing is to have it away from you instead of towards you. About 2 more slides and then I'll just kind of answer some questions. We're skipping the soup then. You don't get to dunk much. Do you guys like Oreo cookies? Anybody in here? I love them. I won't be ordering them at a fancy meal because you don't get to dunk much. There are sometimes you get to use your bread for gravy, but that's about it. Okay. we're going to go ahead and let them serve. I'm going to come around, I'm going to answer questions that you have them, and then we have some specific places that the silverware is going to go at the end of the meal, and so once we get to that point, we'll be sure that it's there as well. So, but I will go first to tables. Anybody that has a hand up for a question, that would be great. Otherwise, I just come around and force myself on you. How they should eat what? Oh, okay, so egg rolls is what we're having, and I knew that because they sent me that. Because you are at a formal function, you're going to eat the egg rolls with your fork, and you're going to cut them. And so if you just absolutely have to pick up a small piece of it instead of the fork, but still at least cut them with the knife. So.
What about cutting with your fork?
Cutting with your fork. You can cut with your fork if it's something that is easy enough to do, like the main part of the meal, but I don't think I would an egg roll because it's likely to slip away and go on to somebody else. So for the egg roll, I'm going to ask you to use the fork and the knife style. So now we like pause for a while. You're going to want your glass to not be completely full. So, and then you're going to do what this has on this slide. So you're going to stand up. So you're going to use your saucer plate, not the dessert plate, your saucer plate, so you can put your cup on the table and a glass. And you're going to figure out basically how to get into this formation so you could go around and shake people's hands. And so that's what these directions take you through. So go ahead and everybody stand up. You're going to put your in your left hand, you're going to put your napkin between your ring and your pinky finger. Then those are a base for the plate. Then you're going to sneak the glass in and hold it with your second finger. So you're going to want to stand up to do this. It's much easier to stand up than it is. So you can read and see the directions. I'll come around and help people. So basically you got to have your right hand free. So the napkin, in comes the plate. There, people got it. So now please go around the room and introduce yourself to at least 2 people that you don't know. So just walking around with your one hand free. Okay. It's okay, it happens, it's okay. So I don't know if you want to scan to the group at all instead of me. So that's why I say to drink some, so then you should be able to shake my hand.
Okay.
There you go. So walk around, introduce yourself, say hello to somebody. So napkin is in first, in between your, and usually you'd have a smaller napkin, in between your pinky and your ring finger. Then comes the plate, but you're leaving your pointer and thumb free to bring the glass in and hold it. Then once I have this fairly stable, I should be able to shake hands with people and walk around and do that. So go and shake some hands and walk around and introduce yourself to some people. So how are you guys doing with this? Good? Okay, good, very nice. A little firmer with me in the handshake. Good, okay. See? Nice, oh, and nice smile too, very good. Hi, nice to meet you. Good, nice to meet you. Good smiles to go along and a head nod, very good. Nice to meet you, a little firmer. Good, 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 okay. I am noticing on some handshakes, you gotta have firm handshakes. Go in, it's okay. Be sure your drinks are only about halfway full. I'm just making sure they have some good handshakes. Nice, thank you, thank you. Nice smile. Hello. A little firmer, even though I'm a girl. Oh, perfect, perfect.
Hello.
Nice. Oh, nice smiles. Good. Nice to meet you. Okay. Oops, I'll sneak through this way. Nice, thank you. Okay, once you've done that and you've met a couple people, oh, good, good. Nice smile, nice firm handshake. I like it, I like it. Okay, good, thank you. Be sure and have eye contact. Okay, you guys can sit back down now if you want to.